Not all customer behaviors are risky, only a few drive most churn. In the last video, we looked at the churn across various customer groups. In this video, I will be answering a more actionable business question. Which specific customer choices are responsible for higher churn? I will analyze individual customer attributes like contract types, services, and payment behavior to identify the exact values where churn spikes. This kind of analysis helps businesses to identify what to fix first before combining multiple factors or building dashboards. Let's break it down using real customer data. In the previous video, we have focused on gender, senior citizen, partner, and dependents column. And we have drawn these insights from the last video that senior citizens are more likely to churn, customers who is single is more likely to churn, and churn rate is lower for younger citizen and for those who have both partner and dependents. Now we will focus on the tenure column. Now press Alt N V D from your keyboard to insert a pivot table from the data model. Now let's drag the tenure column in the rows section and churn rate in the values section. We will insert an area chart from this data. Let's remove the fill button. We will apply some gradient over here. The higher churn rate will be red in color and the lower churn rate can be any color. And if you see over here, those who have less number of tenure with the company, churn rate is much higher for them. But those who have more tenure using the service, their churn rate is much lower. And from the 1 to 21 months, the churn rate is tremendously high and the churn rate is gradually decreasing from 22 to 71 months. Now we will create a column from the tenure column, and as the tenure column is in months, we will convert that tenure column in number of years. So let's go to data model. We will add another column over here which will be tenure in years. Press enter and we will write down our logic over here. We will use the ceiling function. We will use the tenure column from the dataset and we will use 12 as significance. If I press enter, you can see the values over here. The 0 is 0. Then from 1 to 12 automatically becomes 12. Then from 13 to 24 automatically becomes 24. So what ceiling function does, it divide any number with the significance and take the nearest multiple of this significance. Then we will divide this by 12 and it will give me the number of years. Now you can see as we have 72 months, so it is showing 6 years. Now we will create a range which will be showing 0 to 1 years, 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years, and so on. We will wrap this function in a variable and we will name it as benchmark. Now let's return function and we will write bm minus 1 concatenate and we will use a hyphen. Again another AND operator to concatenate the bm with the bm minus 1. Another concatenate operator and write down years. You can see it is showing 0 to 1 years, 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years, and 4 to 5 years. And there is another minus 1 to 0 years. So we have 0 months in the tenure column and this formula automatically convert that 0 into minus 1. So we will not be bothered with this value because they are not our subscribed customers. So we will leave as it is. Now let's get back to the Excel worksheet and here we will add another pivot table with the tenure in year column, drag it in the rows section and churn rate in the values section. Now you can see we have nice labels 0 to 1 years, 1 to 2 years and we have churn rate for those customers. Go to design, report layout, show in tabular. We don't want the grand total or the subtotal and we will use the color formatting also. So color scale from red to green will be okay. All cells showing churn rate values. So you can clearly see, let me zoom it a little bit. From the pivot table and from the color coding, you can see that those who are from 0 to 1 years, their churn rate is much higher compared to those who have tenure more than 1 year. And by the increasing number of tenure, the churn rate is reducing gradually. Those who have tenure for 5 to 6 years, their churn rate is much lower. So if we can somehow increase the tenure of each customer, we can reduce our churn rate. Let's bring the total customer also. I will remove the -1 to 0 years. Now let's plot a graph out of this pivot table. We will create a combo chart. Let's remove the field buttons. Go to design, change chart type, click on the combo, and I will make the churn rate as a line chart in secondary axis and total customer as a column chart. Click OK. Let's remove the grid lines, put it at the top. Now from the chart you can clearly see by the increasing number of years the churn rate is going down. It is highest for the 0 to 1 years and lowest for the 5 to 6 years. But we have a tremendously high number of customers for 0 to 1 years and 5 to 6 years. The rest have equal number of customers. So if we can somehow move this customer and convert them into a long-term customer, we can reduce our churn rate. Now let's focus on the next column. Click Alt NVD from your keyboard, and now let's bring the phone service, churn rate and total customer. Go to home and apply the color formatting. Red to green will be fine. Go to design, show in tabular form. We can apply the bars over here. Go to home, conditional formatting, data bars, and let's put this data bar. Click on the total customers value. Those who have phone service, they are more likely to churn, and number of customers using the phone service is almost 90% of the total customers. If we can show the values as % of grand total, then you can see almost 90% of total customers are using phone service and the churn rate is much higher for them. So we need to figure out what problems are occurring with the phone service, and from the next videos we will find out that is it a plausible reason that those who are using the phone service, do they churn more? Now let's bring some other columns. We will remove the phone service and let's bring multiple lines. Now you can see those who do not have multiple lines, their churn rate is 25%. Those who do not have any phone service, their churn rate is much lower. But those who have multiple lines, their churn rate is 28%. And those who do not have multiple lines, the number of total customer is 48% of the total customer. And those who are using the multiple lines, they are 42% of the total customer. Let's see the values behind those percentages. 3000 users do not have multiple lines, but 2000 users have multiple lines. Now let's remove the multiple lines and bring the internet service. And you can see for the fiber optic users, the churn rate is very much higher and it is 41%, and the number of user is 3000. So in the next video, we need to take the fiber optic into consideration. And those who do not have any internet service, their churn rate is much lower. So there might be some serious issue with the internet service provider. Now let's bring online security. Almost 3000 users are not taking the online security and their churn rate is much higher. Whereas 2000 users are taking the online security and their churn rate is much lower. So if we can provide the online security in a cheaper rate to those customers, we can reduce our churn rate, because the data shows online security is a better service to offer. Now let's remove the online security and bring back the online backup. It is also showing the similar pattern that 3000 users do not have any online backup and their churn rate is 39%, which is much higher compared to those who are using online backup. Their churn rate is 21%. Almost half of the churn rate compared to those who do not have any online backup. And the number of customers is 2000 who are using online backup. So we can provide this online backup service to those who do not have this service to reduce the churn rate. Now let's bring the device protection, and this is also showing the similar pattern, and this service is performing well because those who have device protection, their churn rate is much lower than those who do not have any device protection service. And the number of total customers who do not have any device protection is 3000, whereas the number of total customers who are using device protection is 2000. Now let's bring the tech support. So this is also showing the similar pattern. Those who do not have any tech support, their churn rate is 41%, whereas those who are taking the tech support is 15%. And the number of user is much higher. Those who do not take the tech support and those who are taking the tech support is 2000. So we can offer this service to those who are not using this service to reduce the churn rate. Now let's bring the streaming TV. That those who are not streaming TV and those who are streaming TV, their churn rate is quite similar. So the streaming TV service is not a very useful feature, so we need to improve this service. Now let's bring a streaming movies column, and this is also showing the similar pattern, that those who are streaming movies and those who do not streaming movies, the churn rate is quite similar. But those who are not using the streaming movies, their churn rate is little bit higher than those who are using the streaming movies service. Now let's bring the contract, and this is showing a very interesting pattern, that those who have month-to-month contract, their churn rate is 42%, and the number of user is very much high for the month-to-month contract users. And for the 2-year contract, the churn rate is much lower, which is 2.8%, and the number of user is 1,600. So we can somehow switch month-to-month customers to 1-year or 2-year contract, then we can reduce the churn rate. Now let's bring the paperless billing, and you can see the difference, that those are using paperless billing, their churn rate is much higher compared to those who are not using paperless billing. That means if we can provide the paper with the billings, then we can reduce the churn rate, and the number of paperless billing users is much higher. It is almost 50% of the total customers, more than 50%. Now let's bring the payment method, and you can see those who are using electronic check as a payment method, their churn rate is 45%, which is much higher compared to the other payment method. And the other payment method has almost similar churn rate, and they have also similar number of users, but a very higher number of customers are using electronic check as their payment method. So there must be some hassle with the electronic check payment method, which is causing the churn rate. Now let's remove this, and we will bring the monthly charges and total charges column, but not as just numbers. We will create a range for the monthly charges and total charges column, and after that we will create pivot table on top of that. We are on the power pivot. Let's click on the drop down of monthly charges. Now sort this from largest to smallest, and you can see the large value is 118, and if you again sort this from smallest to largest, the minimum value is 18. Now we will create another column which will separate the monthly charges into 4 equal parts, and after that we will do our analysis on that column. Now go to the last section of the dataset, double click on the add column and name it as monthly charges range. Now click enter, and let's write a formula. First we will take the maximum value of monthly charges, and then we will subtract the minimum value of monthly charges. This will give us the range of the monthly charges column. Now we will store this in a variable. Let's name the variable as range. Now write return, and now we will call the switch function. Let's put true over here. Then if the monthly charges column is greater than 0 and is less than the range, then we will write this as 0. Use a concatenate operator. Now put a hyphen in the double quotation. Again use AND operator and put range. This will give us the value from 0 to the first range. Now we will format this as 1 decimal place. Now put a comma and copy this logic and paste it over here. Now if it is greater than the range but it is less than 2 times of range, then it will be from range to 2 times of the range. Let's put this one over here. Now we will create another logic. This will be greater than 2 times of range, but it will be less than 3 times of range. Let's put this one at the place of 0 and here write down 3 times of range. And if the monthly charges is greater than 3 times of range, then it will be greater than. Now let's put this one over here and put an AND operator. We have missed to do one more thing, that we have to divide this range into 4 equal parts. In order to do that, we will divide this by 3. Now if you click enter, you can see the range over here from 0 to 33, then from 33 to 67, from 67 to 100, then greater than 100. Click OK and save it. And now let's go to the Excel worksheet. Now we will bring our newly created column. Now let's drag monthly charges range in the rows section. And here you can see it is not in the correct order. It should be at the top. Then it should be in the second place. It should be in the third place. And it should be at the bottom. Now I will show you a great trick over here. This trick is only available in Microsoft Excel. But in Power BI, you have to create an index column and you have to sort the monthly charges range by that index column. But for the quick analysis in Excel, you don't need to do anything like that. Just select this cell and drag it at the top position. You can see now it is showing in the first place. Similarly, select the third row and drag it at the second place. And do the same for the last one. Put it in the third stage. And now you can see it is in the correct order. And if you carefully see who are between 67 to 100, the number of customers are much higher, which is 2000, and the churn rate is also much higher. So we need to figure out for this monthly charges range why the churn rate is so much higher. And we have a large portion of customers present in this range. So it will be our targeted customers. And you can see the monthly charges from 0 to 33, their churn rate is much lower. But we have a large number of customers in this range also. And for the greater than 100, this is not a very small number churn rate. This is also 27%, which is very much high than the usual. And the number of customers, although it is 837, but these are our high profile clients. So we need to figure out why the churn rate is higher for this category. Now let's go to the Power Pivot and we will do the same for the total charges column. I won't write the logic again. What I will do, I will just copy the whole formula and I will paste this in the newly created column and it will be total charges range. Now in the monthly charges, I will just put total charges. I'll copy this and paste it in the monthly charges column. Now if you click enter, you can see the total charges range over here. We have some blanks also. Then we have the range from 0 to 2000, then from 2000 to 5000, from 5000 to 8000 and greater than 8000, 8,600 actually. Now save it and go to Excel worksheet, press Alt NVD and drag the newly created column. And let's bring the churn rate also. Go to design, report layout, show in tabular. We don't want row total, subtotal or grand total. Go to home, conditional formatting, color scale and from red to green. All cells showing churn rate values. And now you can see that these are not in the correct order. So what I am going to do, now you can see it is in the correct order. And if you see that from 0 to 2000, the churn rate is much higher, which is 31%. Who have monthly charges greater than 8,000, their churn rate is 33%. So we need to figure out why the churn rate is much higher for these two categories. But if I bring another metric into this pivot table, the whole scenario will be changed. Let me show you what will happen if I bring the total customer in this pivot table. And the most interesting part is we have only 3 high value customers, but almost half of the customers or more than 50% of the customers lie between 0 to 2.8 thousand total charges range. So this can be our targeted customer. Why the churn rate is much higher for this price range category? Now let me show you the beauty of data analysis. What I am going to do, I will just select the greater than 8.6 thousand values and I will focus only the particular 3 customer and try to find out why 1 out of 3 customer is churning from the service. So now what I am going to do, I will bring the customer ID column in the rows section and you can see that these are our 3 high valued customers. And let me bring the churn column also so that we can see which customer is churning. If you look over here, this customer is churning from our service. Now we will bring other fields over here and try to find out that why this customer is churning from our service. Let's bring the gender and you can see it is male, but it is female and it is female. That means the tendency to churn is showing in the male customer. Now let's remove the gender column and let's bring the senior citizen. Let's bring the senior citizen in the rows section. None of them are senior. Now remove this and bring the family status. The 2 customers who are not churning, they have both partner and dependents. And in the previous video, I have shown that those who have partner and dependents, they are very less likely to churn rather than those who have partners and who is single. So this can be a reason the customer who is churning have only partner but do not have any dependents. Now let's bring the tenure in years and you can see they are all from 5 to 6 years. Okay, now we can bring some other fields over here and try to find out what patterns are actually responsible for this customer to churn. Now let's bring the phone service and you can see that 3 of them are using the phone service. Multiple lines, 3 of them has the multiple lines because they are high valued customer. I think they are all using fiber optic, you can see, and this can be a reason also that fiber optic is not a very good internet service because the churn rate is 41% for fiber optic. Now let's bring the online security and you can see that all of them are using online security and online backup. Yes, they have online backup. Device protection, yes, they have device protection also. Tech support, yes. Streaming TV, yes. Streaming movies, yes. Contract, you can see that the customer who is churning, he has 1-year contract, but those who are not churning, they have 2-year contract. So this can be an important feature. If we could increase the contract of that customer from 1 year to 2 year, then we might have not lose that customer. Now let's go down and bring some other fields and paperless billing. Yes, and this can be a reason that those who are using paperless billing, they are more likely to churn. We need to take into consideration this customer because he is also using the paperless billing. Now let's see the payment method. And this is bank transfer, credit card. We can say that it is safe in that perspective. The monthly charges range, all is greater than 100, and the total charges range is greater than 8.6 thousand. So we can see that this customer has only partner, it can be a reason, and the contract is 1 year. So this too can be a prime factor for that customer to churn. So this is the beauty of data analysis. So this analysis helps us to identify which customer behaviors contribute most to churn. In the next video, I will combine these factors together to identify the deeper pattern and insights so that businesses can use for more targeted retention strategies. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.